Okay, let's unpack this. We've all been there, right? You're standing in a foreign country, you're jet-lagged, you desperately need caffeine or a meal, and suddenly, the simple act of ordering food,
Yeah,
it just feels like this impromptu high-stakes linguistic exam.
it really does. It's the challenge that travelers, consistently report as generating the most immediate anxiety.
Yeah.
It seems so straightforward on the surface. You want food, they have food. But the modern service industry, especially in these high-volume English-speaking places, it relies on this incredibly specific, rapid-fire vocabulary.
Right.
And if you hesitate or use the wrong term, the whole transaction just grinds to a halt. You can feel the line growing behind you.
Exactly. And our source material today is just brilliant because it tackles this head-on. It gives us this whole stack of actionable insights on how to transform from, a tentative tourist into someone who feels like a confident local.
We're not just learning vocabulary lists here.
Oh, no, not at all.
We're learning the rules of the transaction.
That's our mission, really, to provide a shortcut to being instantly well-informed about the English that's actually used in cafes and restaurants. We're going to be breaking down the specific modern vocabulary you need to confidently order, to customize, and to pay with a real focus on efficiency and just minimizing friction.
And the sources, they immediately highlighted the tripwires, the three phrases that cause that immediate moment of panic for the unprepared traveler. I love that they did this.
Me too.
These are the markers we'll use throughout our conversation today.
Okay.
So first up, the quick confirmation for here or to go.
A classic.
Second, that subtle but really important detail, room for milk. And third, the crucial liquid distinction, still or sparkling.
Yeah.
Mastering these simple transactional questions is, I think, the key to unlocking that dining confidence.
It is. We're going to analyze these core interaction points, and we'll provide you with the exact language you need to preempt those questions, because by preparing your script, you control the pace. That sounds like a delicious kind of control. So let's dive straight into the deep end. Scene 1, the modern coffee shop gauntlet. This is where precision and speed are, well, they're absolutely paramount.
The whole state of coffee ordering right now, it just reflects this explosion of customization. Your source material is so spot on when it says that coffee orders are no longer simple. They are, and I'm quoting here, complex now.
Oh, they are.
This complexity, it's the new normal. And it requires you, the customer, to be a kind of linguistic specialist in non-dairy fats and temperature control.
It's so true. It's not just black or white anymore, or cream or sugar.
Right.
We've moved into an age where size, temperature, milk type, syrup volume, even the bean origin can be mandatory data points.
Right.
And if you don't volunteer this information precisely, the barista has to interrupt you to get the details, and that's where all the confusion starts.
And this whole thing is driven entirely by the goal of efficiency, or in industry terms, throughput. Just think about that line of people behind you in a busy cafe in London or New York. The barista's opening line is usually delivered at breakneck speed. What can I get for you?
That phrase is the starting gun. It really is. If you launch into some hesitant description of what you think you want, you lose critical time. You need to present a complete, precise, efficient order right out of the gate. It really requires preparation.
Let's make this real. The sources we looked at provided an excellent example of a high-complexity, modern order. So let's role-play a standard interaction. We'll slow it down just a little bit to explore the necessary back and forth. I'll be the focused, high-speed barista.
Okay, and I'll be the confident, prepared traveler who has just absorbed this entire deep dive. Give me your quickest pace. I'm ready.
Welcome in. What can I get for you today?
I'll have a medium latte with oat milk, please.
Oat milk. Got it. Will that be hot or iced?
Oh, iced, please.
And just to confirm, standard espresso shots? Or did you want to upgrade to an extra shot? Or maybe decaf?
You know what, an extra shot, but make it decaf. I'm trying to cut back late in the day.
No problem at all. Iced, medium latte, oat milk, decaf with an extra shot. Perfect. And finally, are you drinking that here with us, or is that order to go?
To go, thanks.
Okay, so let's pause there. That one request, which sounded relatively simple, I'll have a medium latte, it required 3 layers of clarification.
Right, the temperature, the preparation.
Exactly. Temperature, preparation, so decaf, and the extra shot and location. Just look at how much critical jargon we had to deploy and understand in those few seconds.
That's the entire interaction, but it felt smooth because I was ready with the precise terminology. You asked, I answered. That level of preparation completely transforms the experience.
It does.
Let's break down those core clarifying questions and that jargon now, because this is where you, the listener, gain that crucial transactional edge.
We have to start with the essential difference between the default and the customized temperature. The question is always hot or iced.
And here's a really crucial cultural note. In many US and UK metropolitan cafes, if you simply say latte, the barista will often default to assuming it's a hot drink. But they must confirm because iced beverages are so immensely popular now.
So the onus is on you to specify iced.
Exactly. If you forget, the machine starts steaming milk, and now you've created friction, you've delayed the service, maybe even wasted product.
So training yourself to insert the temperature first in your ordering sentence, I'll have an iced medium latte. That is the most efficient path. It cuts out a whole question.
And the term iced is really important here. You often hear cold brew, but that's a different thing, right?
It is, yeah. That's a method of preparation. It uses cold water and a long steeping time, which is usually served cold by default. If you want a traditionally made latte or an Americano that's just served cold over ice, you must specify iced.
Okay, good distinction.
Absolutely. So the next layer of complexity, which we touched on in our role play, is the milk alternative and customization language. It's no longer just milk or cream. We are deep in the era of non-dairy specificity.
Our example used oat milk, which is, it's currently the most popular non-dairy option in many regions, but you have to be prepared for the full spectrum of options that the barista might list off if you just say with milk.
Precisely. You need to know how to pronounce and be ready to order, soy milk, almond milk, and coconut milk.
Mm.
And then there's another term you'll hear. The barista might ask if you want it prepared. Skinny.
Skinny is a perfect example of jargon that can trip people up. What does that actually mean?
It's a shorthand for dietary choices. In the U.S., it's a common term for skim milk or non-fat milk. But sometimes it can also mean they use a low-calorie sweetener option. So if you're traveling and they ask if you want your mocha skinny, they're asking if you want non-fat milk and often the sugar-free syrup substitute.
So it's two things in one word. Very efficient, but also confusing if you don't know it.
Exactly. And we can't forget the actual espresso details. Our role play included the need for clarification on shot count and caffeine. You need to know these terms: single shot, double shot, which is often the standard for a medium or large drink.
You're requesting an extra shot.
Right. And the essential word decaf, which is short for decaffeinated. Never, ever assume a drink is decaf. Always insert the word decaf immediately before the name of the drink if you require it. I'll have a decaf Americano.
That clarity prevents some major issues later in the day, believe me.
It really does. Moving to the sweetener query. Any sugar? This simple question is so pervasive because of modern health trends.
It's basically a confirmation that they should not add sugar by default. If you order a vanilla latte, they usually assume the vanilla syrup is enough sweetness.
Yeah.
But if you want a plain latte and you want to add sugar, you need to be prepared to specify that.
And the key terms here are pump, which is used for liquid syrups like vanilla or hazelnut,
Right.
and then the names of the artificial sweeteners you might want, like Splenda, stevia, or eco. So if you want sugar, specify sugar, or maybe raw sugar.
Right.
And if they ask how many pumps, you need a number ready. 3 pumps of vanilla, please.
This sounds obsessive, I know, but if you want the drink you actually pictured in your head, you have to be obsessive in your instruction. Otherwise, you just get whatever the default recipe is.
And finally, the critical question that changes depending on your geography. Consumption location. This is the big one. We have the U.S. phrase, for here or to go, versus the U.K. and Commonwealth takeaway.
Okay, let's detail the implications of this because it's deeper than just the cup you get it in, isn't it?
It is. To go in the U.S. or takeaway in the U.K. means the transaction is optimized for mobility. You get a disposable vessel, it probably has a plastic lid, and it's designed for you to immediately exit the premises.
Whereas for here means you intend to occupy a space.
Right, and that entails a different set of logistics for the cafe. They're going to use ceramic ware, they expect you to use their more comfortable seating, and sometimes, in some places, there's even a small price difference due to tax or reduced waste costs.
So why does the phrasing change? Why doesn't the UK just say to go? It seems simpler.
Well, it's a linguistic inheritance, but it's also a matter of functional clarity. Takeaway is often used more broadly for any prepared food that's meant to be consumed off-site. A pizza, fish and chips, a sandwich.
Ah, I see. It's a bigger category.
Exactly. It encompasses more than just beverages. In the U.S., to go is the phrase that's been cemented in the service vernacular. Now, if you use to go in the U.K., they will understand you. Of course they will. But using takeaway sounds seamless. It sounds like you belong.
So to synthesize all this, You need to internalize that the correct, most efficient order is a sentence structure that includes size, temperature, drink type, milk substitute, and a final instruction on location.
Right.
A large iced decaf latte with almond milk to go.
Saying that sentence perfectly in one breath saves everyone time.
Right.
It reduces the cognitive load for you, and it maintains the cue's pace. It's the ultimate demonstration of preparedness in a lightning-fast commercial environment.
Fantastic. We've secured our caffeine without causing an international incident. So now, we move to a different kind of challenge. The measured but still highly detailed environment of the sit-down restaurant.
This is a real gear shift.
It is. Transitioning from the frenetic pace of the cafe to the more measured formality of a sit-down restaurant requires shifting our linguistic strategy. Here, we move from prioritizing speed to prioritizing precision, control, and, I think most importantly, safety.
And the conversation begins not with the complexity of your order, but with the timing of it. The waiter's opening move is generally, "Are you ready to order?"
That's the signal.
That is the nonverbal cue that signals the browsing period is over, and you now have to articulate your meal choice clearly.
And what if you're not ready? I think a lot of people panic here.
They do. But the confident traveler just uses a simple, polite holding phrase. "Not quite. Can you give us a few more minutes, please?" It's professional, it's polite, and it respects the waiter's need to manage their sections.
Good tip. Okay, so once you are ready, your ability to customize your meal is the true demonstration of fluency. And this brings us to the power of that forward modification, on the side.
This phrase is a master key. It really is. It gives you so much agency in your dining experience. The source example was perfect. "I'll have the Caesar salad, but can I get the dressing on the side?"
Let's look at why on the side is so critical, because it's beyond just managing calories or avoiding soggy lettuce, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. First, it's about textural control. Many chefs, bless them, they overdress salads. They just do. And they turn fresh greens into a wet mess. By getting the dressing on the side, you can dip your fork or drizzle just the amount you desire, and you maintain the crispness of the leaves.
It also gives you ingredient control. Like if you order tacos, asking for the sour cream on the side or the salsa on the side means you can modulate the spice or the richness of the dish bite by bite.
And this vocabulary extends far beyond just salads. Think about side dishes, condiments. For instance, if you order fries, asking for the ketchup on the side is pretty standard. But if you order fish, asking for the lemon butter sauce on the side means the fish maintains its original sear and texture until you choose to introduce that moisture.
It's a language of preference, really,
Yeah.
and using it communicates to the staff that you are an experienced diner who knows exactly what they want. It bypasses any potential dissatisfaction before the food even gets to your table.
Right. The alternative is just accepting the kitchen's default level of saturation, which might not be what you want at all.
And what if they can't do it? What if the sauce is, integral to the dish?
That can happen. If the waiter is unsure if they can fulfill the request, they might respond with, "I'll have to check with the kitchen," which is perfectly normal. You should never be afraid to make the request. The worst they can say is no.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's pivot from preference to necessity, which is the most critical element for traveler safety. Allergies and safety. This is a non-negotiable area where your language must be utterly precise.
Absolutely. When you're communicating an allergy, vagueness is dangerous. The model phrase provided in the source material is the structure you must memorize. Does this contain allergen? I am allergic.
Why is that specific structure so essential? Why not just say, I can't have peanuts?
Because the waiter must understand that this is a medical condition, not a dietary choice. Saying, "I don't like gluten," is a world away from saying, "I have celiac disease. Does this contain any gluten?"
Ah, I see.
When you state, "I am allergic," it triggers specific service protocols in any professional kitchen. It elevates the risk level from a preference to a potential medical emergency. The chef has to be informed, ingredient lists must be meticulously reviewed, and cross-contamination warnings become paramount.
So this might mean being even more specific about the reaction, if necessary. For instance, saying something like, I have a severe shellfish allergy. Can you please ensure my meal is not prepared on the same surface as the shrimp?
Exactly that. And you must be prepared to discuss hidden ingredients. For someone with a nut allergy, it's not enough to just avoid the whole nuts on top. You have to ask if nut oils are used in the frying process, or if the bread is baked on surfaces that are shared with nut products. The language of inquiry is vital here.
And what's the likely response? If a waiter is unsure, what happens?
They will likely fetch the manager or the chef, or they might bring you a big ingredient binder. The confident response from you is to wait patiently and insist on confirmation. Your health is the priority here, and that precise English is your shield.
Okay. Moving from critical safety to specific culinary expectations, we arrive at the mandatory question when ordering certain proteins, the specifics of steak orders.
Yes. Once you've ordered the sirloin or the tenderloin, the waiter is required to ask, how would you like that cooked?
And the sweet spot, the gold standard that was referenced in the source material, is medium rare, please.
And this seemingly simple phrase, medium rare, implies an entire detailed understanding of the cooking spectrum. If you simply say medium rare, you communicate a certain level of professionalism. But for you, the learner, to feel truly confident, you really must internalize the implied options on either side of that.
Let's spend some time defining that spectrum because there is often a lot of confusion here, especially when temperatures are described differently across cultures. So let's start with the quickest cook time, rare.
Rare means the meat has been very minimally seared. The center is cool, it's deeply red, and very soft to the touch. The internal temperature is usually only around 125 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 52 Celsius. This is for those who enjoy the texture and flavor closest to raw beef.
It should still be juicy, right? And yield easily under the knife.
Exactly. Next is medium rare, our focal point. This is widely considered the ideal preparation by most chefs. The center is warm, it's bright red to a deep pink, and the exterior has a defined crust from the sear.
And the temperature there is a bit higher.
A bit higher, around 135 Fahrenheit or 57 Celsius. This maximizes both tenderness and flavor because it allows the fat and connective tissue to begin softening without drying out the meat.
Okay, then we step up to medium.
At medium, the center is warm and it's pink, but the red color has diminished significantly. It's moving toward brown. The edges are firm and well cooked. The temperature here hits about 145 Fahrenheit or 63 Celsius. This is a great choice for people who are maybe a little hesitant about seeing a lot of pink in their meat.
And past that, we enter the, let's say, drier territory, medium well.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
At this point, only a slight hint of pink remains in the absolute center. The meat is mostly brown, it's firm to the touch, and the texture begins to change noticeably. Internal temperature is around 150 Fahrenheit or 66 Celsius.
And finally, the end of the line. Well done.
This means cooked entirely through. No pink at all. Very firm and significantly drier. The temperature is 160 Fahrenheit or 71 Celsius or even higher. While this is a personal choice, of course, it's the preparation that typically requires the most time and might get a slight grimace from a purist chef.
And what if the traveler wants something extreme? Are there other terms we should know, like on the very rare end of the spectrum?
Yes, there is one. If you hear the term black and blue, or sometimes Pittsburgh rare, that means the steak is heavily charred on the outside, almost burnt, but it's essentially raw and cool on the inside.
Wow.
It's an unusual, highly specific preparation that is rare to order, but it's important to recognize if you see it on a menu or hear it mentioned.
So the bottom line is that when the waiter asks, you must have one of those specific terms ready. Hesitating or vaguely saying, I'm a little bit cooked, forces the waiter to guess or spend time walking you through that entire spectrum we just discussed.
And precision guarantees satisfaction. Knowing those 5 core terms, rare, medium, medium well, and well done, is mastering the steak order.
We've established control over the kitchen, we've confirmed our safety, and we've defined our preferences. Now for the grand finale.
The money maze.
Yes. We move to the conclusion of the meal, the point where the cultural differences regarding currency, terminology, and that social contract, they become the most pronounced. As the source rightly points out, this is arguably the most confusing part in the US-UK.
It is, because it involves 2 completely distinct issues. First, the terminology for the final reckoning, and second, the deeply ingrained yet vastly different rules of gratuity or tipping.
Let's start with the simplest request, just asking for the final tally. This is a classic transatlantic linguistic divide, check versus bill.
It is. In North America, so specifically the US and Canada, you must ask, can we have the check, please? The term check refers to that paper, itemized summary of the charges.
But if you are in the United Kingdom or Ireland or most Commonwealth countries, you use the term bill. The bill, please, is the standard efficient request.
So why the difference? It's kind of interesting. Historically, the US check derived from the idea of checking the accuracy of the items against the record before you pay.
Like double-checking your work.
Exactly. The UK bill is simply the formal document requesting payment, much like a utility bill or any other kind of bill.
And as you noted earlier, using the wrong word won't result in chaos, but confidence is what we're aiming for here. If you use the correct regional term, you move seamlessly through the transaction. It removes that momentary mental calculation from the waiter's mind. They don't have to translate your request.
And once that tally arrives, if you're dining with a group, you have to master the language of financial separation, splitting the tab. The source defines two very distinct methods, and confusing them can cause significant administrative delays for the staff.
Right. So option one is the simpler and faster one. Can we split the bill?
This usually means dividing the total monetary amount, including tax and tip, if it's applicable, evenly among the group. If the bill is $100 and there are 4 of you, everyone pays $25. It doesn't matter what they individually ordered.
And this is usually acceptable, right?
Oh yeah, this is a common and usually very acceptable request for most restaurants.
Okay, but then there's the more complicated request, but it's essential for fairness in some groups. Separate checks, please.
This is a different beast. This requires the waiter to itemize the totals based on exactly who ordered what. So if one person had a cheap appetizer and water and another person ordered the most expensive wine and a 3-course meal, separate checks ensures precise payment for individual consumption.
But what is the hidden complexity here? Why might a busy restaurant resist doing separate checks for a big table?
It's purely administrative. For a party of, say, 8 or 10, splitting the tab means the waiter has to manually track 8 different orders back to 8 different people and then ring them up individually in the system.
I can see how that would be a pain.
During a peak rush, this can slow down their efficiency dramatically and tie up the payment system. Now, many modern point-of-sale systems make this easier, but travelers should be polite and understanding if the restaurant has a policy against splitting for very large groups.
So if the group's orders were roughly similar in price, split the bill is the efficient, polite choice. If there's a massive discrepancy in spending, separate checks is the financially responsible choice. But you should be mindful of the restaurant's operational constraints.
Now, we enter the true minefield, the deep dive into tipping culture. The economic and social differences between the U.S. and Europe here must be explicitly understood by any international traveler. It's so important.
The source is crystal clear on the U.S. standard. 15 to 20% is not just customary. It is a mandatory social and economic requirement for sit-down service.
This is crucial knowledge. The U.S. service industry operates on what's called a sub-minimum wage structure in many states. This means the legal hourly wage for waitstaff is significantly lower than the standard minimum wage.
With the explicit assumption that tips will bridge that gap.
Exactly. So therefore, a 15 to 20% tip isn't a bonus for great service. It is the payment for the service rendered, and it's part of the staff's expected income.
So if you leave less than 15%, you are actively signaling dissatisfaction?
Yes. And leaving zero, unless the service was truly hostile or something, is considered a significant social transgression. Travelers often miss this economic reality. They view tipping as optional, like it is in many parts of the world. In the U.S., it's an integrated cost of dining.
And one quick point, that 15 to 20% is typically calculated on the pre-tax total, right?
That's a great point, yes, on the pre-tax total. Now, contrast that sharply with the European contrast. The source highlights that in Europe, gratuity is often included.
So what does that mean in practice?
This distinction is paramount. In many European nations, especially in Western Europe, waitstaff are paid a living wage by the restaurant. The cost of their service is integrated into the menu price. If the gratuity is included, you'll see a specific line item on the bill, often labeled service charge or gratuity included.
So for you, the traveler, this means you need to be vigilant. You need to read the bill carefully.
You do. If you see that service charge line, you have fulfilled your financial obligation. Leaving an additional 20% on top of an already included service charge results in double tipping, just unnecessary spending.
And if the service charge is not included?
Then the expectation for a tip is much, much lower than the U.S. standard. A common European custom is to simply round up the bill. If the bill is 47 euros, rounding up to 50 euros for good service is a generous and appreciated gesture. But there is no societal pressure to get out your calculator and figure out 18% of the total.
I think we need to quickly touch on tipping outside of the formal sit-down restaurant because travelers encounter this confusion everywhere. What about counter service back at the coffee shop?
Excellent point. For counter service, like the coffee shop we just analyzed, the rules relax a lot. In the U.S., tipping is common, but it's generally optional. If you pay with a card, the machine will probably prompt you with suggested percentages, 15, 20, 25%. But $1 or $2, we're simply rounding up, is perfectly acceptable for basic service.
So you're tipping for the transaction, not for sustained service.
That's a perfect way to put it. And what about bartenders?
Good question.
Bartenders are treated more like waiters in the U.S., especially if they're making complex, time-consuming drinks. A standard rule of thumb is $1 to $2 per drink, or 15 to 20% of the total bar tab. If you only tip once at the end, just make sure the percentage reflects the entire transaction.
Okay, that clarifies the high-stakes cultural environment. Let's practice bringing all this payment terminology together with our final role play. We'll operate in a U.S. context, and we'll handle the most complex requests, splitting the bill and asking for the check.
How was everything tonight? I hope you enjoyed the medium rare steak.
It was absolutely delicious, thank you. We are ready now. Can we have the check, please?
Certainly. The waiter presents the check.
Yeah.
And how will you be handling the payment tonight? We can take cash or card.
We'll pay with cards, and since the cost was fairly balanced between us, we'd like to split the bill evenly between 2 cards.
Split evenly between 2 cards? I can certainly handle that right here for you. The waiter processes the split payment. Is there anything else I can get for you this evening?
No, that's everything. Thank you for the excellent service.
It was my pleasure. Have a great evening.
And just like that, the entire complicated financial and social transaction is navigated successfully. We used the correct regional term, check. We defined the payment method, and we accurately requested the method of splitting, which was split the bill. Dining mastery achieved.
It really is.
So we have completed the full arc of international ordering confidence today. We moved from that high-speed challenge of requesting a medium iced decaf latte with oat milk.
A very specific order.
A very specific order. Then, through the critical safety language required for allergies, we mastered the subjective precision of a medium-rare steak order. And finally, we navigated the treacherous waters of US and UK bill and tipping etiquette.
The linguistic toolkit you now possess is robust. And these are not just words, right? They are the mechanism for controlling your experience, for minimizing anxiety, and for ensuring you get exactly what you intended when you sat down or stepped up to that counter.
And crucially, we have to circle back to the core reassurance that was provided in our source material. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the menu, as waiters are there to help. The staff are professionals, and they would much rather you ask a clarifying question up front than have to send a meal back later.
That's the foundation. But let's use that positive affirmation to build toward our final provocative thought. We spent this entire deep dive stressing the importance of precision on the customer side. The waiter is there to execute the order, but it's the customer who must first define it perfectly.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me. If a customer is vague, if they just say, I want coffee, or I want the salad with sauce, they are forcing the waiter to perform extra labor.
Exactly.
They're forcing them to ask 2 or 3 or 4 clarifying questions to nail down the specifics of milk and temperature and condiment placement.
So consider this. How does being armed with these specific, precise phrases, the language of customization and clarity, empower you, the customer, to not just get service, but to actively conduct your own dining experience, to ensure that the food delivered is 100% satisfactory without all that friction of endless clarification?
It changes the dynamic entirely. Instead of being a passive recipient who just kind of hopes the defaults are right, you become an active participant who uses precise language to define a perfect outcome. The efficiency we mastered in the cafe translates directly to the satisfaction we achieve in the restaurant.
The language of service is the language of control. Master the specific vocabulary, and you master the entire international dining experience.
A truly powerful thought to chew on next time you step up to the counter, whether you're jet-lagged or not. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the language of food and confidence.
Happy ordering.
We'll see you next time.